float with me on the warm, soft breeze. Return with me to a time long ago. Let's drift across the sapphire sea to reach an island waiting for you, and magical musical journey takes flight in your mind. Are no limits to where we will come. So float with me on the warm, soft breeze. Return with me to a time long ago. Let's drift across the sapphire sea to reach an island waiting for you and
Music was plentiful on Storybrooke Island, and lullabies flowed freely through the land, bringing serene songs to those who lay sleeping soundly. Families of many shapes and sizes gathered near the brook, watching and waiting, while whispers of a lark floated sweetly by from a land not so far away, the land of Staff. It is here where the nightingale once sang, but now sat still and silent. And it is here where laughter lived in the light of day, but now only sadness remained among the hills. All of this stillness lingered because the Note family, who not so many months before had brought the island sweet music, lost sight of the purpose of music, to bring blessedness and peace to the children of the island. You see, it was known that if their purpose to sound the music throughout the land was ever changed, the castle and all that was within it would become frozen in time. It all started when the Notes were forming a music alphabet for the staff. The children of the island wished to share in the joys of making music, so it was necessary that they first learn to read the music which the Notes created as they danced upon the staff. To make it easier for them, each line and space needed to be given a name. Since each pitch from the staff was special, everyone felt it was important that each be treated as such. All of the Notes seemed to be in agreement with the decision to have a music alphabet, except for the 8th notes. Why, they were so determined to use numbers instead that they told their family they would never dance or sing in the music castle again. With this said, the 8ths formed a group and together disappeared into the darkness. Many weeks passed, and it wasn't long before all of the notes began to argue about anything and everything. The sounds which floated from the music castle were sounds of bitterness and hatred. One day, the only sounds surrounding the people of the island were sounds of silence, for the notes had broken their promise to the music fairy. Under her spell, the castle and all that was within became frozen in time. This is when the happiness ended, and in its place the sadness began. The notes were the only ones who could break the spell and bring back the beautiful music. This, however, seemed impossible, since all but the eighth notes were within the castle when it was silenced. Thus, all that the children of the island could do was wait. Wait for the time when someone could turn this terrible thing into something that was good. The time indeed did pass them by, while lonesome gray clouds remained in the sky. And even in fall, when the trees shed their leaves, no beautiful colors the ground did receive. So the island stayed still while the seasons passed by, and the people waited with hope. Hope that the eighth notes would soon return to their home and lift the spell with a sweet, sweet song. They waited patiently for the eighth notes to appear, but soon half a year had come and gone. All of the eighth notes were turning 1 year old. They would lose their tails and each become a quarter note. All of this celebration was to take place with the first breath of dew on the first morn of spring. However, when the first day of spring arrived, the eighth notes were nowhere in sight, and when the people prayed for rain, it never came. One early morning, the sun peeked round a cloud to see the shadows in the distance. But it was not the shadows which awakened the island. It was the sounds that rang from afar. The voices which had now come near rang loudly for all hearts to hear, and the words they sang were very clear.
We ran so far away from you. Now we return with hearts so true.
The notes had finally returned to bring with them a blessed song. Little did they know, however, that they would find the castle so silently still and hushed. When they reached the darkened doors, they found their family frozen in time, and sadness struck their hearts. They surrounded the castle and held each other's hands. And this time they sang their song to be heard throughout the land.
We ran so far away from you, but now we return with hearts so true. The time away has made us
It wasn't long before the sun came out to see this sight, and all the seeds within the ground began to blossom from the light. The sound slipped through the castle doors, wound round windows and through the floors. The warmth from this love made the castle shine, and the notes came back to the present time. As all of the notes embraced, only blessedness and joy shone on each face. Since half a year had passed, it was time to celebrate the changes that some of the notes in the family experienced, one example being the eighth notes. As the eighth notes grew from half a year to 1 year, they lost their tails and became quarter notes, and we all know that a quarter note can stay on the staff for 1 count. The quarter notes who became 1.5-year-olds were awarded the honor of a dot, which made them dotted quarter notes. This was a very exciting time, as the dotted quarter notes could stay on a line or in a space for 1.5 counts. And let's certainly not forget the 2-year-olds, who turned 3 since last spring and also received a dot. Yes, the 3-year-old notes graduated from half notes to dotted half notes, which allowed them to stay on the staff for 3 counts. Of course, there were many, many more notes celebrating birthdays that blessed spring day. But we really must continue with our story.
Narrator? Oh, Miss Walker?
Yes, Mrs. Trebleclef.
The dot. Now really, whatever does this dot do? Please, do tell.
Yes, of course, Mrs. Clef. Well, all it simply means is that the note receiving the dot increases their age by half of their original age and time value on the staff.
Oh, so you mean that a dotted whole note really is a 6-year-old? Because 4 plus half of 4, which is 2, equals 6. How splendid indeed!
Oh, yes, and to continue, a dotted quarter note whose original value is 1 becomes 1 plus half of that, which is really an eighth. And a dotted eighth really is an eighth plus a 16th, which is half of an
Thank you, Miss Walker. That will be all for now.
Oh, yes, let's see. What did happen next? But of course, everyone cheered at the sight of this celebration.
Well, gosh me jeebers, my mama told me, Bobby Joe Jr., that dot is just a birthmark.
Well, you best not be giving up them banjo lessons with Loretti there, boy.
The only thing that was left for the notes to do was to give each line and space a letter name from the music alphabet. They all agreed on A to G, for to have more letters would be much too much, you see. So let's all listen carefully to learn about their ABCs. When Mr. and Mrs. Clef would stay upon the staff each passing day, there was a pitch which sat between them on a line in the middle which was clearly seen.
Middle pitch, middle pitch.
The notes all sang with glee.
On a little line you sit, upon a middle line you be, and since you sit where we can see, then middle C is what you'll be.
So once again they sang with glee about their new name, Middle C.
Middle C, oh middle C, upon the middle line you be, and since you sit where we can see, then middle C is what you'll be.
What a delight it was to see the notes all singing happily. They still, however, had to name the other lines and spaces on the staff. So their fun continued. Mrs. Trebleclef said,
If you climb the music ladder up from middle C, then this is what you'll surely see as you climb up to me. Well, up from C is letter D, then E, then F, then G. And once you think you've reached the end, you start the alphabet again at A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
So said said Mr. Bassclef.
If you climb the music ladder down from middle C, then this is what you'll surely see as you climb down to me. Well, down from C is letter B, and backward still is A. And down one more from letter A will take us down to G. C, B, A, G, F, E, D, C, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C.
How confusing!
Not really. Let's see how all of this would look if we should paint it in a book.
Once the Notes could see their work, it seemed so simple, and yet they were very proud of what they'd achieved. All of the children on the island could now learn to share in song. The Notes realized that their love for one another had brought the music back forever. The children joined together in the castle for their first lesson in music. Here they practiced the new letter names of the music alphabet by placing them on the lines and in the spaces. Their second lesson was to learn how to sing and count together. Could you imagine what it might sound like if everyone sang the same melody but at different times? Rather interesting, isn't it? But really, this is how it should sound. It seemed at the time that there was no solution to this problem. However, after giving it some thought, the Notes realized that a counting scheme might solve their concern. It occurred to each of them that the quarter notes displayed a perfect example of good counting, since the quarters loved to count while they marched late at night.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yes, this was a splendid example of what was needed. Even one of the eighth notes agreed.
What a splendid idea indeed. But I still don't seem to understand.
Ach, it simply means that we count to 4, then count to 4 until there are no more.
Until there are no more what?
Ach, until there are no more dancing notes, you half-witted nilly nit-note.
Because the children could not count out loud and sing at the same time, it was left to anyone who was not singing to count for the children until they learned to imagine the counts in their own minds. They began to practice this new technique.
All right, everyone. Listen carefully as I count the rhythm you must follow for your melody. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well done! Now continue on your own.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
2, 3, 4. Very impressive. I must say, you really are catching on to quarter counting.
To help remind the children when it was time to start counting from 1 to 4 again, the Notes created a new line for the staff, which would separate each group of 4 counts. They called it a bar line. Therefore, the portions of the staff sitting between the bar lines would be called bars. Also, to show that the song had finished, double lines were placed at the end of the staff. The new timing system was named Common Time, since the quarter notes who inspired this decision were such common counters. To show their appreciation for this new system of keeping time, the children dedicated 2 large C's to the notes. These 2 C's were placed beside Mr. and Mrs. Clef before each song was sung in common time. Thereafter, it became known as the area on the staff for all time signatures. This helped the children to read the music more easily, and they soon began to soar in sweet song. As time passed, beautiful music rang through the land of Staff and into the heavenly skies. And once again the nightingale sang, while whispers of a lark sweetly joined her. These sounds spread soothingly across the brook to the children of the island, and soon after, laughter returned and flowed gently into the hearts of all.
safely now, little wings of song, stay safe upon an angel's flight. Fly with the echoes of sweet music's refrain.